So the main sponsor of the bill, as you said, is Assemblymember Pacheco, and you read her bio, and I'm going to quote from it. A daughter of a nurse and a public school bus driver in a working class neighborhood, Blanca's upbringing, Assemblymember Pacheco's upbringing, instilled in her an appreciation for hard work and the importance of community. You read that and you don't get from that, and maybe this is politics, I don't know, you don't think that's someone who's going to shut off government to average people. Did her bill get hijacked? Or is this kind of what she wanted all along? Is she an active participant in what's going on?
Yeah, so I can't really state whether she's obviously she's an active participant in this bill. It's her bill. She's the author. Typically what happens when bills come to fruition are an organization, a group, a person, someone comes to the author, which is either a state senator or an assembly person, with an idea, and usually also a rough draft of that idea to implement into a bill. And that author, based on kind of their values and their policy goals, are going to say yes or no to that bill. So Blanca Pacheco, she came through local government. She was previously on the Downey City Council, which is a city in Southern California. It's in LA County. So she kind of knows what goes on with public records requests. She's sympathetic to government agencies that deal with public records requests. I would say Downey in particular is probably, I think, a city over the last decade that they've dealt with this issue. I think it's been known a little bit more than other cities. So I would say she's sympathetic. She sits also on the local government committee in her role as an assembly person. So she gets the local government process. She's sympathetic to it. She's also an attorney, that's well versed in municipal law, and I think all of that resulted in this being generally a policy area that she feels very strongly about. That said, the people who essentially crafted the bill, brought the idea to her, formulated the language, were basically these organizations that represent local governments, and that is the League of California Cities and it's called CSAC. I'm forgetting the actual what the acronym means, but essentially they represent county governments, and so she worked with them on this bill, and they were what I would call the sponsors of the bill, the main drivers. They're responsible for testifying with her during these committees about why it's needed, gathering information to prove that this is a real issue and how it's not going to adversely harm the public. At the end of the day, it's the author's bill. They get to pick and choose what goes in to that bill, and what amendments they're going to take when it goes into and comes out of committees. So, and I'll just note, because I think it's relevant context here, that Assemblymember Pacheco is also the chair of the Assembly Rules Committee, which essentially assigns bills to different committees to have a hearing. And this year, she blocked two other transparency bills, AB 2557 and AB 2063, from even getting a hearing. And those bills, what they would have done, they would have published on the legislative website, the actual web page of a bill, the written letters that come from lobbyists that go to these committees advocating for a certain position or changes to bills. and that didn't even get those bills didn't even get a hearing. And I bring that up because Common Cause was the sponsor of one of those bills, and we were at least expecting a hearing. So take what you will of that, but that was another instance of a bill relating to transparency that we feel um, you know involvement resulted in us not even being able to engage with the public on why this transparency is needed. So you know what concerns me isn't simply who authored the bill. It's that this proposal reflected years of frustration among some local governments and who deal with Public Records Act. Rather than investing in better records management or proactive disclosure, or modern technology, the solution in this bill was to make it harder, slower, and more expensive for the public to obtain information. And that's kind of the debate we're having here.